What if I told you that every little choice you make could be the beginning of an incredible journey? Doesn't that sound exciting? Let's do a little exercise together. I invite you to close your eyes for a moment, and I'm going to do it with you, of course. As you do so, let the sound of whispers fade into the background. Now, in this silent space, think of a small decision, small choice that you made, maybe one without even thinking about it, something that became a pivotal moment in your life. Visualize the chain of events that followed. As you start to open your eyes, hold on to that feeling, hold on to that memory. I would like to welcome all of you to TEDx TSMU, and I would like to remind you that you're not just opening your eyes to this beautiful room, but to the endless possibilities that lay in the quiet moments of our everyday lives. The thoughts you just experienced are the essence of today's theme, action potential, extraordinary power that lies in the smallest choices we make every single day. Now, until we go to this journey of exploring action potential, I want you to consider this. What untold stories are hidden in the small choices you make every day? Could these moments hold the secrets to the greatest transformations of your life? I invite you to join me in uncovering tales of transformation and seeing the incredible power that lies in choices that we often overlook. I want you to look at the acorn on the screen. It is tiny, tiny, yet it has the potential to grow into a magnificent oak tree. Now, this acorn is not just a seed. It is a symbol of possibilities. It is a reminder that grand outcomes often have the most humble beginnings. Now, I want to start our exploration by taking you to the journey of past and present. I want to tell you a little bit about the magnificent examples of action potential that are intertwined in our history. Now, these are examples where the smallest actions or smallest beginnings spark the monumental transformations in different fields of our life. If you look at the screen, you see this beautiful lady, Hedy Lamarr. Now, in order to hear her story, we need to travel into the early 20th century. Some of you might know her as a renowned Hollywood actress, and she was renowned with her stunning beauty as well, as you can see. But probably most of you do not know that she was an inventor also. What did she invent, you might ask? She co-founded navigation technologies that assisted Allied forces with their torpedoes during World War II. Now, you might say, okay, we don't really use torpedoes today, do we? Well, her inventions was the basis of modern Wi-Fi and Bluetooth technology. Now, can any of you tell me that you haven't used Wi-Fi or Bluetooth? You cannot. The digital landscape that she helped so much develop is part of our daily lives and is going to take more and more of it. She probably didn't know at the time that today in Tbilisi, a girl named Christine would give her example as an example of action potential, as an example of how small action can create grandiose innovations. Now, let's look at the Sir Alexander Fleming. Medical students in the audience might know him more than others. Now, in 1928, this man found a little petri dish that had a mold on it. It sounds pretty insignificant. Most of the people would have just thrown it in the trash, right? That's not what he did, though. And that was the beginning that resulted in the development of penicillin. That drug has revolutionized the whole medicine industry, and it has changed the countless lives since. Now, both of these stories are clear examples of action potential, of how seemingly insignificant action can result into groundbreaking innovation, whether in technology or in medicine. Now I want to bring you to the present time, where this principle still holds true. Everybody knows the story of Malala, brave girl from Pakistan. What she did was she stood up against extreme adversity and violence for the right of education. This not only earned her a Nobel Peace Prize, but it caused a global movement for the support of education for girls and for all. Or let's look at the Wikipedia. Everybody has used the Wikipedia at some point. But did you know that it started as a little idea between two friends in 2001? What they wanted to do, they wanted to build an online encyclopedia of sort. What they did not know was that it would become one of the most accessed informational sources in the world. Think about it for a moment. If you have a computer, or any device in that matter, an internet, which in nowadays most of the world has, everybody can go and find out about any topic. This is revolutionary. This is basically democratizing the knowledge and information for everyone. Once again, these are examples of how one word, one stand, or one simple idea can result in something that changes lives for generations to come. Now, action potential isn't just a metaphor that we use. It is deeply rooted in the science, specifically in the neuroscience. In the human brain, action potential refers to a little spark of neurons. Now, this happens when the neuron fires. It might sound little out of touch of our everyday lives, but the truth is, my dears, every single of our actions, every single of our thoughts, everything we do comes from these tiny, tiny electrical impulses. Now, just like these impulses decide how we feel or what we do, so is our life. So in our lives, the small actions could become catalysts for a chain of events that we would never have imagined. Now, I want to make this story a little more relatable, so I want to tell you about my experience. When I was 15, little girl, I got accepted. I was chosen for the Future Leaders Exchange Program. Now, this is an exchange program financed by the US State Department. As a result of this win, I had to go to the United States to live there for a year. Now, this took me from everything I knew to the vast expanse of the United States. You might not believe me, but before going to the United States, I had never even been to Tbilisi. Can you believe that? My own hometown, my own country's capital. I lived in a small hometown, Akhaltsikhe, if any of you have heard it. I remember the first time I came to Tbilisi, it was to go to the airport to go to the United States. I remember the mix of fear and excitement the first time I got into the airplane. When I got there and it was time to go to American high school, things did not get easy. I remember standing in front of this door open, and I could see kids standing in groups, chatting and laughing. Nobody cared who I was. Nobody cared why I was there or what did I want to do there. It was my job to make myself seen. I remember how my legs shook, and I remember how hard it was to take that first step inside the building. Now, that step wasn't just a physical step. It was my own action potential. It was a step into the unknown, into the challenging. And the experiences I got as a result of that, the friendships I formed, confidence I got, it has been with me on my journey ever since. Now, this my personal story very closely aligns to today's theme, because I never knew that that small step into the doors of a high school would be beginning of me becoming somebody that I know I could become. It was my own way of turning acorn into an oak tree. Now I want to tell you about a little beautiful phenomenon that we see when exploring the action potential. I'm sure many of you have heard of butterfly effect. Now, butterfly effect originally comes from the chaos theory. It was originally applied to weather conditions. Essentially, it tells us that tiny action, something as tiny as a flutter of a butterfly, could influence complex systems and can result in magnificent and often very unpredictable outcomes, like changing a course of tornado. The exciting part is that our life, both personal and scientific, are full of examples of butterfly effect in action. And I want to tell you about a few of them, with your permission. Now, the first thing I want to tell you about is the start of World War I. I'm sure many of you have heard that the assassination of one Franz Ferdinand was the beginning of that conflict that took countless lives and forever changed the world. But did you know that that happened as a result of few, let's call it coincidences? And I'm going to tell you how it went. The assassin who was preparing to kill Archduke was waiting for him on the route that he was supposed to go on. Out of nowhere, driver decided to take a completely different route. Of course, this was due to security. Now, what driver did not know was that the killer got hungry and was buying a sandwich on exactly that same street. So driver himself basically brought him the victim in front of his eyes. Now, think about that. Think about the effects that World War I had on our world. And think about how that tiny thing, the fact that the killer got hungry and driver had an idea, caused all of that. Another beautiful example is this letter you see on the screen. This is a letter that the Vietnam government sent to United States President in 1946. In this letter, to put it in a nutshell, they basically asked them to help and support their independence. Now, what did America do? They totally ignored the letter. What happened afterwards? This ignorance influenced Vietnam's path towards communism and ultimately resulted in a Vietnam War, which was one of the deadliest wars that the world has experienced, and it took countless lives from America or Vietnam, and again, changed the world forever in ways that none of us would want to. More modern example is the fall of Berlin Wall. I'm sure you've all seen this iconic photo. But did you know how it all started? There was a press conference where it was announced that they would ease the travel restrictions between East and West. However, the person who was responsible to announce this made a little mistake in communicating what the actual relaxes were. Now, this resulted in people accumulating really fast and just destroying the wall altogether. This ended a Cold War era just because it was a miscommunication that somebody who was talking did not take a few seconds to get their thoughts straight. This is fascinating. When we talk about this, it's almost unreal to think that such tiny actions could result in these magnificent transformations. But here we are. This is real, and you are going to see examples of this in your life every single day. Now, all these stories, again, closely align to our action potential. The results might not always be positive, as in wars we've discussed. However, the chain of events that follow certain actions always covers a large magnitude. Now, the important part in action potential is understanding that most of these results, these chained results, come from these silent, small decisions that we very often overlook. I like to call them silent whispers of life. Did you know that life speaks to you? It speaks to you in many ways, sometimes in strange ways. It could be a thought you get. It could be somebody you meet. It could be an event you attend, like this one today. The important part is to tune in to these silent whispers. So I want to urge you to listen to these silent whispers, to listen to what life is telling you, to take chances in your life, to not be afraid to step into the unknown. Because exactly these are the territories that provide us with the immense potential for growth and development. Now, as we get close to my presentation of action potential, I want to sum up what we talked about. We traveled through the neural intricacies of our brain. We traveled through the history and present. We saw how each word, each action, each thought can be a catalyst for monumental change in the world. Now, I want to ask you to not only think about these ideas, but to act on them. Listen to those silent whispers. Dare to take the steps. Dare to find your action potential. Now, imagine a world where every single one of us realizes, appreciates, and harnesses their action potential. The world where we see the power of our small choices and magnificent ripples that they create. For me, that is a world where compassion, kindness, and empathy are taking a charge, where we understand the immense potential that lies within each and every one of you. I would like to thank you for joining me in this exploration. I would like to ask you to go forth and be the catalysts of positive change in your life and in the world. And I want you to remember that acorn I showed you. You know why? Because you are that acorn. Within you lies the potential to change your life, and in doing so, change the world. Thank you.